Hello. We have an exciting topic. I'm so itching. But here we are. We three queens. I'm Musonda.
I'm Micheline.
And I'm Achieng.
Okay, so we three queens of Africa. And so our topic today is talking about our travels across Africa.
Nice.
In fact,
Such a good one. Such a good one.
In fact, there is a saying in my language, which is Bemba, my father's language, from Zambia, northern Zambia. Umwana shenda atashanyi no kunaya. The child that never travels thinks their mother is the best cook.
First of all, that is incredibly deep. And you know when she said umwana ashenda, something like that. Is that what it is? So these languages. I mean, so we speak Swahili, the three of us. You were just saying that in Bemba.
Yes.
And yet, umwana ashenda. It's for me a mixture of like a bit of Luganda and Swahili, umwana, and then...
And also Kinyarwanda.
And then shenda, like enda. Do you know what I mean? So I can, speaking of travel, I can go to all the Bembaland parts of Zambia and Malawi and just roll with my mixture of broken Kinyarwanda, Luganda, and
but of course,
pretty good Swahili.
But of course,
amazing.
I love it.
I mean, like the Luos. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine because you are of Luo heritage.
Yes.
The Luo of South Sudan, the Luo of Uganda.
Oh yeah.
Kenya, maybe Tanzania even.
In fact, I think we were all one people, and then.
Well, the borders.
I mean,
let's talk. I mean, and we'll get to actually how we navigate different borders, and if we can do so with ease. But absolutely.
Yeah. But I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you because I travel on a Zambian passport. And I've been to parts of Africa that have been absolutely exciting. And of course, there's the colonial heritage, the Francophone Africa, Lusophone Africa, and Anglophone Africa, and just crossing these spaces, right? I want to hear from you, Mish, for example. You've been in your work, but also in your personal trips.
Yes.
Been to some exciting, like what's the most exciting place you've been to?
It's so hard to dig through, you know what I mean? So I've been really lucky. I think I've counted 40, maybe about 54 countries, including Oceania. And actually my career started in Oceania, in Madagascar. It's one of those random things that people are like, huh?
Wow.
But yeah, when I started, I worked in international development actually. And, I was in the States and I thought I was different because I'm African and I could use that as my, my differentiator. And they're like, but you need international experience.
Wow.
But I'm like, but I lived in Africa. And they're like, well, I mean, work experience, right? So I applied to Francophone places because I knew I needed to improve on my professional French. And Madagascar is what I got. And oh my.
Did you get to travel around the country?
First of all, let me not go wide and far. What was the question? Which part of it am I
just want to know. I just want to know what was the most exciting place you've been on the continent. How you got there? Was there, visa issues or just difficulty getting there? I want to know that.
Okay, let me just continue the Madagascar story and then touch on that, because for me it was truly one of the most unique places on the continent that I've been to. Up to that point, I'd been, I think I knew East Africa quite well. I had an understanding of West Africa, even if at that point I hadn't traveled yet to West Africa. I had a really strong understanding from my friends, West Africans in diaspora, because they talk a lot, right, about their culture and their food is ever present.
And exactly, their fashion.
And so I could imagine what walking down the streets of Dakar could feel like. Madagascar, nobody ever prepared me for the fact that at first glance, you land in Antananarivo, and it's rice paddies. It's Asian. I mean, now you just go on IG, and you just see the images on IG. But then, I knew that there was that Asian influence from Malaysia and so on, but I did not know, like, visually. So rice paddies, and in the capital, it's mostly the people from the old Malay empire or from Malaysia. And so the visual of having not, really black Africans in that sense, but more of, in my mind at the time, I thought, more Indian-like, And so that for me was just stunning as just change expectations.
Wow.
The language.
Wow.
You know how I was already hanging on to Bemba, just about to put on my resume. to speak basic member because I could, I could hear a few things. Malagasy is like nothing else.
Wow.
It just has a, vavau, manaona. But
wow,
the surprises within. So some of the things like manaona is how are you? And guess what the answer is?
I cannot guess. Can you?
Mzuri.
Kama mzuri. Salama.
No way.
Salama.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yes. And so, you start to imagine some of the influence perhaps from, the Arab kingdom, maybe around the trade off the coast of Kenya. So some amazing surprises there.
Look at the fusion.
I mean, incredible. And I'll just quickly say, in addition, the flora and the fauna, the famous lemur, I think that's when I really started to think about animals as being so unique because only Madagascar has this lemur with a long stripy tail, and I think the merge of different people. So along the edges of the island, where it broke off from east-southeast, let me call it mainland, where you see like Angola, Mozambique. The people that you met over there, wow, they just looked exactly like they were, Angolans or Mozambicans.
Wow.
They looked more, say, Black African.
Yeah.
And so that mélange of influences, c'était vraiment fascinant.
Wow.
So,
Totalement fascinant.
Let me stop
And you, Chang, I mean, you've traveled a lot on the continent, different
So
places.
much.
Islands, mainland.
Yes, in fact, when I first went into sort of mainstream corporate, I handled what we called Mid-Africa and the Islands, which was all the French-speaking countries in the center of Africa and the Indian Ocean Islands.
Oh, wow.
And it was such a melting pot those days because, at that time, the Mid-African countries were in kind of civil strife.
Right.
And then the Indian Ocean Islands. And the Indian Ocean Islands, like Reunion, for example, is actually a part of France. It's like a county.
It's
Protectorate.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's actually part of France. They have French passports. So you can imagine dealing with a Madagascar and a Mauritius and a Reunion Island.
And they're so different.
And they're so different. Mauritius is very multiracial, and then the Madagascans are, with that sort of Asian orientation or history and heritage. And then you've got Reunion where they're French, but they're Reunionnais that look like me, that look like you,
Exactly.
that look mixed race, that look white, and you've got kind of everything in between,
Right.
Fascinating. And I mean, so my work has taken me across, Northern Africa, Southern Africa, East Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, like the works. And it's just been such a joy.
It's always favorite. I mean, like,
I was just thinking, it's so hard to say I have a favorite. I'll tell you why. I did a lot of traveling in the Sahel. And for those who don't know, Sahel is Niger, Chad, Burkina Faso.
It's actually much big. It's actually much bigger.
Does it
than
include
that.
other countries? 'Cause those were the three I knew.
It's over 20 countries.
The whole
Look at that.
I'll tell you about it.
And those three countries, for example, like the people are very kind of quiet and gentle.
Yes.
There's the most loving, kind people. They call you my sister, but not in that way of rough. It's kind of the moment you are in their country, you are my sister. You're an African like me. And they are so gracious and generous. Then I did Nigeria, for example. I used to go to Nigeria every 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
The guy at immigration used to greet me by my name.
I love it.
You're back, welcome!
I love it.
Guys would be like, who's this chick?
No, but I
She's someone important.
Oh my goodness.
But
Tell
with
us.
Nigeria, I think it's so different culturally in the way that they express themselves from us in East Africa, where we're a little bit kind of more demure, kind of maybe
A little,
polite.
a heap.
And these guys, it's not to say they're impolite, they're just very direct.
Yes.
And so initially I used to feel so overwhelmed. Let me tell you, I grew to love going to Nigeria.
No, they give you so much attention, right?
First of all, they're such amazing hosts and hostesses.
Yeah.
And they're just so interesting and fascinating.
I love
And
Nigerians.
outside, when you understand that how they communicate doesn't mean they're being rough towards you. It's just that's how they communicate.
Just a normal
Exactly.
voice.
So you stop taking stuff personally. This is a normal voice.
We love you, Nigerians.
for real.
Wherever in the world you are.
In many ways, my fondest memories when I was handling that Pan-African region, my fondest memories came from just the diversity of the people and the way they interacted, and just getting the gift of their different cultural contexts and nuances and the experiences.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And you know, you're talking about Nigeria. You know, for me, what was so fascinating, the first time I went there, I actually asked a Nigerian girlfriend of mine, I was like, you know, here I was in my house packing clothes and she was visiting me. It's like, is this too much? She looked at me, she's like,
what? The quantity of things you're taking?
No, like, am I going to be overdressed? That was my question. And she's like, Musanda, hello. This is underpacking. Like, you are not ready to enter Nigeria. And I was like, oh my goodness, wow. But, you know, I want to talk about my experience in Francophone Africa. And here I was, you know, traveling on a Zambian passport and then, you know, visas and, you know, the whole shenanigan spiel. And so I go to Mali for the first time. I mean, just the landing is spectacular. You're landing on the Fleuve du Niger. So, you know, but it's also the inner delta of the Niger, which is in Bamako. Beautiful, stunning. And I get there, and my first experience there, you know, 2 days before we start this big meeting, I ask a colleague, is it possible for you to take me to a market? You girls, you love markets, right?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Colorful.
You know, so for me, every time I go to a city across Africa, my market for me is an indicator or it shows me the vibe of the city. Anyway, so I get into the market in Bamako. I mean, it's buzzing, it's beautiful, but mostly, you know, everybody's wearing their, you know, their big kaftans and I bump into a Tuareg guy. You know, you see this man, he's walking in front of me and he's got this scarf around his head, blah, blah, and he turns and I'm shocked because his eyes are like green, like a sort of a very light green, but his skin is this olivey, and you know, and I'm staring at him, and so clearly he's like, she's not from here. But what shocked me even more about this travel was very much that, you know, on your eye level, everybody's wearing all these, you know, kaftans and, you know, covers and the Muslim, you know, outfits, etc. And it's amazing. And then below the eye level, below my heart level, and there's all of this, what in Kosa I would call umuti. And this lady's like, est-ce que tu es mariée? Toi, tu n'es pas mariée, toi. You know, if you need a man to marry, you need to use this herbs of so, and then herbs. I was like, this is fascinating because above me, I see Islam. And then below it, I see a real Africanist, you know, herbal culture, which for in all intents and purposes has been kind of, you know, really spoken of badly and, you know, the herbs. And so this was very fascinating. And then Senegal. So I left Bamako, went into Dakar. And then a friend of mine says, Musanda, I need to take you to Gore. You know, as somebody who is from a landlocked country without a sea, you don't understand the impact of the slave trade.
Absolutely. How
people were taken away from the continent. And so going to Gore and then seeing that door of no return, I was like, I was literally shaking and I was so emotional. I was like, whoa.
Wow,
but I also want to hear about the difficulty of getting to these places with your African passports in Africa. Where do we begin? Who wants to start?
I mean, visas are so
exhausting. Such a mess.
We used to have a lot of European colleagues who had 2 passports. So when one has gone in for X number of visas, they're traveling with the other.
Wow.
But we didn't have the benefit of that.
Wow.
You've got your one passport or your one passport. Right. So when somebody tells you the visa takes 3 weeks because the passport has to go to XYZ country, and you're thinking, I'm traveling in Africa. How complicated does this have to be for me?
Yeah.
You know, because that means then you're grounded for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And you've got stuff to deliver, you've got work to get done. And if you're not traveling, you're actually not working.
No.
You know, your boss is asking you why you're in Nairobi.
This visa thing, you know, let me just go back to that moment at that point of no return in Gore Island, you know. It really is, you know, it really is one of the most, I think, profound moments, you know, in my life. I just wanted to take us back there because let me speak for myself as an East African, the whole idea of the slave trade as having just viscerally, you know, touched me or my people. I always felt no, because truthfully, people were taken mostly from, you know, West Africa, a little bit of, you know, Angola and the center, and obviously, you know, from Swahili, from the coast.
Yes.
But I hadn't reckoned with this idea until I was sitting in the US you know, among, you know, African Americans, among Africans in the diaspora, and among West Africans, and I started to learn it. And when I got to Gore, and when I saw this, all this time we've been talking about passports, which I'll get to, I'm sorry, I was just frozen in this moment of, it is completely destabilizing, it's heartbreaking.
Oh, totally.
You see, there's a tiny cell, you know, a tiny cell, no bigger than, say, this table, and, you know, where they tell you that, I don't know what, like 30 men, you know, was squeezed in here, you know. So these are some of the things, and I think it's important actually for us to be able to think as a continent and understand that part of our history. Now that leads me to, how did I even get to Senegal on that trip?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Do you know that I found myself stuck at the airport for like, you know, nearly overnight. So the deal is, I went for work, and, you know, sometimes, very rarely, if you can't get a visa, and yes, I had a Ugandan passport and you need a visa to get to Senegal. If you can't get a visa, you know, professionally you can get like the letter of employment and then a promise of a letter from the Ministry of the Interior of the receiving country, right? And those are the days you're not going to ask for a PDF copy on your phone or blah, blah, blah. So I go with my professional letter. I even had a letter from Senegal, right? And then an email, I think an email that said that there will be a letter from the Ministry of the Interior at the airport. I land happily. They're like, no, madame, on ne trouve rien. We don't find anything. So I was, you know, and I don't think it was those days of cell phone. I'm talking about like 2000. Yeah, when I first started
way
off.
back.
Yeah, when I first, it's like the beginning of my career, 2002. No cell phone. So I was just at the airport trying to convince them, like, I'm Ugandan. I live in the States, right? Yeah. I'm not going to come. I've flown in from Washington, D.C. I'm not going to come to Senegal and do what? You know, they were very gentle. Senegalese, they were very, you know, they were nice enough, but they were like, but we need a visa. And I'm like, but you have the letter. Long story short, I just sat in this airport hotel thinking, oh my God, is this where I'm going to sleep tonight? The thing is, I'm a calm person. I wasn't so stressed because I knew that the next day, somebody from the office would be like, hey, let's go get her, here's the letter. But it was getting into the evening. Yeah.
No, I oh my God, I feel you. Yeah. You know, when I lived in Switzerland, this is sort of early 2000 as well, a group of us Africans, and by the way, mixed, i.e. North Africans, Sub-Saharan Africans, etc., we were having dinner, just having a random chat and blah, blah. And one friend, and I mentioned to a friend, and I said, you know, when I grew up in Zambia, there used to be these pink buses from Sweden. Like, they'd leave Sweden, drive right across through the continent up to Cairo, up to the Cape. And then they just get rid of the bus, or they sell it or something, or it takes, and they fly back. Yeah, just like really experiencing the continent from a truck. Bus.
How cool is that?
Super cool. So we're having dinner, and I'm like, guys, these Europeans, they do it. So maybe we should try it. And I was, yeah, that would be an idea. So one of our friends takes it upon himself, and he does a whole, you know, he was A-type. He does a whole matrix, Musanda Zambian, Hervé Cameroonian, Senegalese, South African, yada, yada. I mean, he did a whole matrix, right? And mapped how we could try and go across the continent all the way to South Africa and navigating all of these places. Guys. What? Visas galore. Like, you can get in here, but cannot get over here. This will require your 3 weeks. And then this might require, no, Zambian passport not allowed here, but no, I was like,
oh my goodness.
No, I was so emotional, and really anybody listening, I don't know, in a space of leadership, I swear we don't need that, because as a continent, I want to see some parts of my continent and learn about the other culture.
Absolutely.
And
we should be able to. Exactly.
You know, the magic of visiting these countries. Yeah. You know, every time I think of a country, first of all, I'm such a foodie, so everything is about the food.
Yes.
And to go into I remember this girl from Burkina Faso inviting me and another colleague to her home to meet her husband, and she had 2 or 3 daughters. Hélène was her name. And we went to her home and we ate local food cooked in her home. Or I remember DRC, poulet braisé.
No, I'm so hungry. Ah,
It was
c'est pas une blague.
localish, but it was the go-to in Kinshasa.
Let me
If you've not
tell
eaten
you.
at Mama Colonel.
Oh,
You don't say Mama Colonel.
Eh, t'es Mama Colonel. Est-ce qu'il est toujours là, ce restaurant? Est-ce qu'il est toujours là? Hey, our Congolese, is Mama Colonel, est-ce qu'il est toujours là? Let us know if that restaurant's still there. Oh my
We used to go for
God.
poulet braisé. Every trip that I went to DRC to Kinshasa,
Yum, yum,
I mean,
yum.
that was the portal. It's like a crime if we've not gone to eat poulet braisé at Mama
Honestly,
Colonel.
actually,
You
the
know,
food.
the food in every single country.
The
was-
people and the
I
food.
think we may even need a food.
We're gonna need a food in Africa travel, yes.
African food
Oh,
is
yum.
delicious. I remember Nigeria, market visits. After the market visit, one colleague told me, so you want to eat Nigeria? And I said, let's go and eat Nigeria,
Yes.
man. He said, but real Nigeria, not in the posh.
Yes.
I said, let's go. I can handle it. I'm
Yes.
African. Do you see me? We went to
Where'd
this
you go?
local place in town. You know the food where you've got a pack of tissues as you.
It was so funny. Was it
The
like a pepper
pepper.
soup?
It was
A
the
proper pepper
and
soup.
the-
Ah,
oh my
don't joke.
God.
Don't joke with your East
was
African.
amazing.
You can't handle
My
it.
nose is already quite ticklish from the pepper.
Yeah. So the food across this continent is magical. I think we never stop to think about how wonderfully diverse every single country, every single region in a country is, and just the richness of the culture in terms of language, in terms
Absolutely.
of food, in
Absolutely.
terms of mannerisms, just
The
all of that.
people.
Fashion.
The fashion. You took me to Mali and the Grand Boubou. And you know,
Yeah.
those things can be like $1,000 depending on the fabric, the shine, those things you're seeing.
Bazaar. Oh,
Let's
no.
not joke.
We're not even
Yes.
gonna go there because it's oh my goodness, yeah. But you know, I mean, for me, I'm just thinking more recently, you know, as we've been in this pandemic, the Africa Free Trade Agreement has come into effect.
Yes,
and now thankfully
exciting.
we're trading. And,
Exciting.
And I really, really do hope, at least personally, I just hope, and us as a collective, as we Three Queens of Africa, that we can have this easing up of just being able to navigate and see the spaces and learning about each other's cultures,
Yeah.
language, poems, literature.
Exactly.
Education,
yeah.
science, you know,
I
traditional
completely agree.
systems. So
we
much.
tend to know a Dubai, a London, you know,
A Rome.
a Rome even more than we do like sitting here in Kenya. I should be able to know a Réunion, a Mali, Morocco, and Burundi. I really
Yeah.
should be able to. And you know, passport people, if you have access to this, hopefully one Africa passport, let's get this thing
We
done.
need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so guys, look, we could go on and talk about the places we've visited, the food we've eaten, pepper soup.
Let's do a
and
food thing soon.
We
Yeah.
need to do a food thing
Yeah.
soon, but you know, this is all we have time for. And please tell us about your travel experiences across Africa, what it's been like, you know, how we can actually share these experiences and just really learn from you, your proverbs from your countries and or from your languages, etc. Would love to hear about all of that. But do not forget to
Subscribe.
Ta-da!
Ciao, ciao.